Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And this is our festival unit, and we're talking about a Spanish town that has a summer New Year. That's kind of interesting. Most of us celebrate the New Year in December, or if it's Chinese New Year, then it would be in January or February. This is kind of unusual. There's a town in Spain that actually celebrates the New Year in August on a hot summer day.
Yeah, Spain's very hot and dry. I grew up in a desert area of the United States, and their weather is very similar to the weather I was used to growing up in. It's just really hot. The sun is very strong. It's not humid like it is in Taiwan, but it is hot and dry. And this isn't a place that I'd want to go in August, I'll be honest. That's like going home to Phoenix, Arizona in August. I would never do that unless I had to. But some people really love hot, dry weather, and I'm sure it's a lot of fun there. We know Spain's a really popular country for tourists because of the food, and they've got lots of great sights to go see. But is this something you'd want to do, Tom?
Sure, why not? If somebody gave me a ticket to go there, I would go, but I'm not sure I would go there myself. But in any case, that's the subject for today, a summer New Year celebration in Spain in the town of Bércholes. So let's find out about this celebration. Let's listen to the entirety of our lesson now from top to bottom. Imagine celebrating New Year's Eve on a hot summer night. In Bércholes, Spain, it's an annual tradition. It began in 1993 when an unintended power cut abruptly ended their standard New Year's celebration. Despite their disappointment, the residents collectively determined to move the party to August. They did this to see if local businesses could recover their losses from December 31st and attract tourists during the summer. To their surprise, the plan was an incredible success, so the town decided to make it an annual celebration. Bércholes' residents start preparing for the August New Year in January. When the date rolls around, the streets downtown are brightly lit and filled with holiday decorations. All the traditional celebrations are still observed. 3 wise men can be seen riding horses through the streets to provide children with gifts. Grapes are also widely available due to a Spanish superstition. Eating a dozen grapes at midnight will bring you good luck for the year. When the clock strikes 12, the first chimes of the new year are accompanied by artificial snow. Then it's time to pop the champagne, sing Christmas songs, and dance joyously until the morning light. Although this summer festival began by accident, today thousands of tourists jet to Bércholes to sweat in the new year in August.
So let's take a look at this, guys. Going to the first paragraph, it says, imagine celebrating New Year's Eve on a hot summer night. Usually we're all bundled up in coats and scarves and we're a little chilled. Taiwan's cold, but not too cold, I think, in the winter. But if you're outside for a while, you want to wear a coat because you do get cold after you're out in the cold air for a while. But here, we're picturing in our mind that we're celebrating New Year's Eve, but it's hot and it's in the dead part of summer. Actually, it's at the end of summer if it's in August. So, yeah, it's a weird time to imagine celebrating New Year's Eve.
Yes, indeed. And you need to imagine that you're celebrating New Year's Eve on a hot summer night. Of course, New Year's Eve is when all the activities take place with the parties and the fireworks and stuff like that. New Year's Day isn't so eventful. Maybe there are some sports competitions on TV.
Later, yeah.
Or you get together with family and have some food or something. But most of the fun is on New Year's Eve. And we're going to Bércholes, Spain. In this town, it's an annual tradition. If something's annual, it happens once a year. So this is a tradition that happens once a year. My question is, do they still have New Year's Eve on December 31st anyway, or do they just tell everybody to wait until August?
I would guess they have two different reasons, 2 different festivals. Why skip one? They probably have, just an excuse to have another party. I think it sounds like a fun idea. Well, when did it start? It's not that old a tradition. It began in 1993. Why? Well, here's the reason. They had an unintended power cut, which abruptly ended their standard New Year's celebration. That would be a drag. You know, you invite all your friends over, you've got your games out, your food, your snack food and stuff, and suddenly the power gets cut. We've had our power go out here. We had it go out a couple times last year, I remember, and it was kind of scary.
Yeah, right.
Once, Tom and I were in the recording studio, and it's in a basement, and it was pitch black. And it was very scary because we didn't know what was going on. If something's unintended, it means it's accidental. It wasn't planned. It wasn't on purpose. It happened just accidentally. So it was an unintended power cut. And if you say something happens abruptly, it happens without warning. Someone can speak to you very abruptly, which means it's not very polite, and they want to get to the point and maybe get an answer from you quickly. But abruptly here means sudden, unexpected. It wasn't planned.
Right. It was a power cut. You could also say a power outage. That's common. And this happened suddenly or abruptly, and that ended their standard New Year's celebration. Despite their disappointment, the residents collectively determined to move the party to August. So despite here just means even though this was the case, even though they were disappointed, they still decided all together to move the party to August. And if you're a resident, of course, you live someplace, the residents of this town are the people who live there. And together, collectively, or as a collective, as a group, they all decided, hey, let's move this party to August. Maybe we could still celebrate New Year's Eve in the future, but our main celebration will be in the summertime.
Wow, so they kind of did this as a community, which is a nice feeling, I think. They wanted to help some of the businesses that had lost a lot of money because of that power outage, the power failure, or the power cut. You could use all of those that happened back on December 31st. So I think it's kind of a nice idea that they all came together. Again, Tom used that word collectively. It just means as a group. And they determined or decided to move the party to August. And they did this to see if local businesses could recover their losses from December 31st. And here's the bonus here, attract tourists during the summer. You know, I wouldn't have thought this out at all. I wonder why somebody said, let's move it to August. They must have other festivals in the earlier months, maybe, that make it harder to plan something like this. And if I had to guess, I would say this only happens in Berchules, Spain, and not in the other parts of Spain.
I would imagine so. And yes, indeed, if you're planning to have a New Year's Eve celebration, a lot of restaurants and businesses are expecting a lot of business. They're going to be buying alcohol and paying for meals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, they lost all that money because they had no electricity, so they wanted to recover their losses. And so they were going to have this celebration in the summer. And to their surprise, the plan was an incredible success, so the town decided to make it an annual celebration. To their surprise, they were actually surprised to find out that this plan was not only a success, but it was an incredible success. Incredible basically means unbelievable. It was really a big success. They didn't expect it. And because of that, they decided to do it every year. They decided to make it an annual celebration.
You could also say it was an extraordinary success. Yeah, hard to believe it was so popular. So what did they do? They decided to, they are smart, and they thought, let's continue this. We can make some extra money. So they continued this as an annual celebration at that point. So moving on to the next paragraph, Berchules' residents, the people living there, start preparing for the August New Year in January. So when the date rolls around, the streets downtown are brightly lit and filled with holiday decorations. It would be weird if you didn't know what had happened, you didn't know their history, and you were just going to Spain, and you went through this town and you thought, wow, their decorations look like New Year's Eve. What's going on? It's kind of fun. When something rolls around, it just means it's it's coming around again. It happens usually on a more consistent basis. I could give you an example sentence. In April, when the Oscars roll around once again, we get to see who's been nominated and decide who we think should win. So these are dates or celebrations that happen pretty frequently or consistently. If it's annually, of course, it rolls around one year or every year the same time.
Yeah, when the date approaches, when the date rolls around, when it's almost the date for the celebration, they have all these decorations downtown. It's brightly lit, and they've got lots of holiday spirit, I suppose, and all the traditional celebrations are still observed. If you observe something, of course, you celebrate something and you participate in its traditions, okay? So if you observe Chinese New Year, of course, you'll get together with your family and have a big meal and observe all the other aspects of the celebration as well. And this is one particular celebration that happens during, well, I think it's more like Christmas. But this is also at the end of the year. We've got these three wise men. They can be seen riding horses through the streets to provide children with gifts. That's a story, I believe, from the Bible. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem, there were these three wise men who were riding horses. And then, I guess, back in those times, they gave gifts. They offered gifts to, let's see, what was it? Incense and myrrh and something.
Frankincense.
Frankincense, yeah. I didn't remember the story too well. But yeah, it's basically observing that particular tradition.
Yeah, Spain does it a little differently than we do in the United States. When they celebrate New Year's Eve, they do have these wise men who come into town riding horses. Although for us in the States, it's more connected with Christmas. But if you know the Bible itself, we know that the three wise men did not visit the night that Jesus was born. He was already a toddler by the time they found him. So it kind of makes sense that that at least in Spain, they have these three wise men ride through the streets a little later, after Christmas, of course. But they continue their traditions that they usually hold on December 31st or New Year's Eve. They continue to do those, but they just move it to August. We're going to talk about more of their traditions, what they do. But first, guys, we're going to take a quick break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
大家好，我是派老师。今天讲解的课程是暑期合刊 Unit6 The Spanish Town with the Summer New Year。这个单元是一篇克漏字测验，内容与西班牙一项特殊庆典有关。大家都知道新年是1月1号，不过西班牙 Buchules 这个小镇是在8月份庆祝新年。这倒也不是自古以来的传统，而是个美丽错误的结果。好，我们现在一起来解题。同时看看背后有什么有趣的故事。请先看第一题，4个选项都是相同词性名词。这一题是单字题，我们必须从前后文寻找答题线索。请看题干的前一个句子 It began in 1993. It 指的是前面这件事情。西班牙 Buchules 有个年节传统，在炎热的夏夜庆祝新年夜。这个传统从1993年开始，当年意外发生停电，他们惯例的新年庆祝活动突然被迫结束。再来，请看题干，尽管他们空格，居民还是集体决定将庆祝活动顺延到8月再举行。Despite their 的 their 就是后面主要子句中的 residents 居民。我们看4个选项，哪个最符合前后文意？A. Disappointment 失望 B. Strategy 策略 C. Charity 慈善 D. Threat 威胁。原本庆祝到一半，结果因为停电而必须终止，大家应该都很失望吧，所以第一题选 A。 再来请看第二题，前文提到居民这么做是为了看看当地做生意的能否弥补12月31号当天的损失，并在夏季吸引游客。没想到 The plan was an incredible空格，因此这个小镇决定把它变成1年1度的庆典。这一题一样是单字题，我们必须从前后文来找答题线索。我们看4个选项，哪个最符合前后文意？ A. Success 成功 B. Buffet 自助餐 C. Dessert 点心 D. Property 房产。 第二题答案相当明显，选 A success， 居民的计划非常成功。好，接下来请看第二段。Berchules 的居民从1月就开始为8月的新年做准备。日子快到的时候，市中心街道灯火通明，到处都是节日装饰，大家依旧遵循所有传统的庆祝活动。可以看到东方三博士马穿过街道送孩子礼物。好，第三题所有选项都包含了动词 ride 的不同动词形态变化。这一题测验的是文法观念，考感官动词 see 被动用法的句型。To be seen 后面加上 VING 或者不定词或者是过去分词。那么 Three wise men 他们做骑马这个动作应该是主动的。主动的话，我们就可以选择加 VING 或者呢是不定词的。那选项里面我们看到有加 VING 的，所以答案选 D。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. It's our festival unit, and we're focusing on a fun Spanish town called Berchules in Spain, which is in Europe. And they have an interesting way of celebrating New Year's Eve. They've moved their celebration, at least this town, they've moved their celebration to August in the summer, which makes it very different. Most countries, at least in our hemisphere, when we have New Year's Eve, we're outside, it's kind of cold, and you're bundled up and you're watching maybe some fireworks, getting together with family and friends, eating, drinking, all those good things. But here, this Spanish town, because they had sort of an accident one year, they decided to move everything to August, and it's also a great way to get tourists to come into town. Many of these towns, especially in Spain, depend on tourists spending lots of money to make their own economy roar and do well.
Right. So, of course, they had to recover their losses from the traditional New Year's celebration. So they moved it to August. It was an incredible success. And, of course, the town had those bright lights and holiday decorations.
Yeah.
And then the traditional celebrations were still observed. We talked about the three wise men riding horses around town and giving children gifts. And here it says grapes are also widely available due to a Spanish superstition. Eating a dozen grapes at midnight will bring you good luck for the year.
Cool.
Most other places don't have this tradition. Grapes, of course, are used to make wine, and you can eat them yourself. They're pretty tasty. And they have this tradition that you need to eat a dozen grapes. You need to eat 12 grapes at midnight, and then you'll have good luck for the coming year.
Yeah, we definitely don't have this tradition in the U.S., but it's awfully fun. Moving on to the final paragraph, it says, when the clock strikes 12 or midnight, that's midnight, guys, the first chimes of the new year are accompanied by artificial snow. Oh, so they kind of pretend it's cold. Actually, Spain doesn't get snow usually. It's in a hot area of the world, but that would be kind of fun. So someone somewhere, maybe from a high position, is shooting out artificial snow. A chime is a bell that you can see in orchestras sometimes. You'll see a percussionist, the person who plays drums. They'll have a set of chimes that they'll play during a performance. Or sometimes a church will have some chimes that they'll play. So that makes it sound very festive, I think you could say. So they've got the chimes, they've got artificial snow, the wise men, they've got grapes. They've got a lot of fun things there.
And then it's time to pop the champagne. You also can sing Christmas songs, and you can dance joyously until the morning light. Maybe you can dance the flamingo or the flamenco, as they call it there. And champagne, of course, is a sparkling wine. It can only be called champagne if it comes from that particular region.
Champagne.
Champagne, right, of France.
Yeah.
And so you pop the champagne or other kinds of sparkling wine, and you're going to sing Christmas songs, which they'll probably sing in Espanol, Spanish, of course.
Sure.
And they love to dance there in Spain. They'll dance joyously, happily, until the morning light, so they're going to stay up all night to dance their hearts away, or they're going to dance the New Year's Eve away.
You mentioned earlier that a lot of the festive activities happen at night on New Year's Eve. Well, the reason we don't do much on New Year's Day is everyone's tired. If you stay up that late at night, the next day, people just want to sleep in. I tend to not be able to stay up too late, so New Year's Day, I'm up pretty normally, but I have friends who will stay up all night, and then on New Year's Day, they get up very, very late. So, yeah, these guys are going to stay until the day breaks, the dawn breaks, so until morning light. So they're going to stay up until maybe 5:30 a.m. And then they'll probably go home and just go to bed. So although this summer festival began by accident, today, thousands of tourists jet to Berchules to sweat in the new year in August. So, yeah, although it started because they had this accidental power loss or power outage, they've turned it into a real gem, I think, for the city itself. And now they have another festival that brings a lot of people joy, which is fun.
Right, and of course, one way to get to this town is to jet there. Jet is usually used as a noun. I'm going to fly to Hong Kong on a jet, or I'm leaving on a jet plane. I don't know when I'll come back again.
John Denver. It's a John Denver song, right?
Well, actually, I'm thinking of the Peter, Paul, and Mary version, but somebody else may have written that song. I don't know. But in any case
Peter,
here...
Paul, and Mary. Yeah.
Indeed, they're an old folk group from the 60s. I think they're all dead now. But in any case, you're going to jet to Berchules, or you're going to take a train or a bus, or you're going to hitchhike there. No matter how you get there, you're going to have a great celebration because you're going to sweat in the new year in August. Now, this is kind of interesting. We're using the term sweat in. That's not used too commonly, but they're basing this on the phrase that we normally use, to ring in the new year. And in this particular case, because it's summer, it's going to be hot, and you're going to sweat. So you're going to sweat in the new year, or you're going to ring in the new year while you're sweating.
Yeah, remember, Spain is the one that has the siesta, the late afternoon nap, where all the businesses shut down and they sleep during the hottest hours of the afternoon. And then they get up and they get back to work and they have a very late dinner in Spain that is unusual. But you would understand it if you had lived there before they had air conditioning, especially. You know, you want to get away from that hot sun. So they would close everything down for a couple of hours in the afternoon and then open back up when it's a little more comfortable, and then eat around 8 or 9 p.m., which is very late, I think. But that's their tradition there.
I think I read somewhere that might have to do with the time zones in Europe, because Spain is the farthest west in Europe there. So it might be because the sun sets later there, so they have their meals later in the day. So that might be one reason why they do that. But if you do travel to Spain, you need to be aware of that. If you want to have a meal, might have to have it much later. I think people here in Taiwan are used to having their meals earlier, maybe about 6 or 7. And if you didn't get enough to eat at dinner, you can always go out around midnight and have your 宵夜, or your midnight snack.
Yeah. So if you have the chance and you can afford a jet ticket or a ticket to fly over there, it might be a fun thing to experience. I think it would definitely be different. Ringing in the new year as you sweat away because you're going to be hot.
Indeed, and Spain, of course, as you said, is a popular tourist destination. So even if you don't go during the summer, there are other times to check out things in Spain. You can go to Barcelona or Madrid or Granada or Cordoba. There are all sorts of places to go check out in Spain. I wouldn't mind going there myself because I do speak Spanish, not fluently, but well enough to get around. It would probably be a lot of fun to go to Spain and check things out. I'd really like to try their gazpacho. I've never really tried that before.
Oh, it's delicious. It's cold tomato soup with some other herbs and vegetables thrown in if you want. So if you get a chance, you should grab it. Right now, we're going to listen one more time to our Chinese teacher.
紧接着第4题一样是单字题，我们看4个选项，哪个最符合前后文意 ？A. bare 空的、赤裸的 ；B. available 可以得到的、有空的 ；C. hateful 讨厌的。D. official 正式的。根据前后文，第4题应该选 B. available 可以得到的、有空的，表示呢，因为西班牙人相当的迷信，那葡萄也就随处都可以买得到。怎么说呢？因为西班牙人相信，在午夜吃掉12颗葡萄，一整年都会有好运。好，那接着呢，我们就看到第5题，也就是在第3个段落这边。当钟声敲响12下的时候，新年的第一声钟声伴随着人造雪降落，随后是时候开香槟、唱圣诞歌了。那他们就会一直很开心的跳舞，跳到呢隔天的早上。那接着请看第5题 Although the summer festival began 空格 Today thousands of tourists jet to Digest to sweat in the new year in August。这一题题干这边所讲的是，虽然这个夏季节日一开始空格，但现今有成千上万的游客飞往 Digest， 在8月的新年挥汗成雨。好，我们看4个选项 ：A. at least 至少 ；B. on average 平均 ；C. by accident 意外 ；D. in advance 事先。好，此处呼应第一段说明新年派对改在酷热的8月的原因，是因为当年很久以前发生了这个意外的停电，所以第5题答案就选 C by accident， 表示虽然这个夏季庆典一刚开始是个意外，不过呢，如今其实每年呢都会吸引成千上万的游客到这里观光。好，以上就是我们针对这一篇克漏字题型所做的解说，谢谢大家。
That is it for today's lesson. Thanks for joining us. And if you manage to get yourself to Spain for this celebration, we hope you have a great time. And maybe you should write us a letter and tell us how you felt about it. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.